Welcome back, guys. My name is Mansur, reporting for All Israel News. In a classified document, the Minister of Defense in Israel, Israel Katz, have said that in Syria, there are forces that are thinking about invading the Golan communities. Guys, I've been saying this for a very long time. Myself and many other Druze from Israel that have relatives in Syria have been telling you, be aware of what's cooking in Southern Syria.
مسير سيارات ضخم في السويداء حيث جاب الأهالي شوارع المدينة رافعين راية التوحيد وأعلام دولة إسرائيل. نحن اليوم 24/11 من جبل الباشان بمسيرة تأييد من المدنيين الدروز، شكر لدولة إسرائيل، لجيش إسرائيل، لأخوتنا اليهود ودروز إسرائيل. نشكر بيبي نتنياهو اللي قال نحن مصممون على حماية حلفائنا الدروز، ونحن بنقول نحن مصممين نكون معك. نحن ما كان بدنا الانفصال عن سوريا، نحن عم ننفصل عن القاعدة، عن داعش، عن الفكر الإرهابي المتطرف. الأحداث اللي صارت بحمص امبارح، قتل العلويين، نفسه صارت عندنا بسويدا، وبعدهم لليوم عم يهددونا ومحتلين قرانا وبدهم يقتلونا. ما حدا حمانا غير رب العالمين ودولة إسرائيل وجيش إسرائيل، كل دروز إسرائيل اللي وقفوا جنبنا. نحن بمسيرة تأييد ومعهم للأبد.
Insane. I've never thought that I'll be hearing people from Syria saying that, being brave enough or desperate enough to say that. By the way, this have become one of the symbols of the Druze for victory. You know, that they survived the massacre that the Syrian regime and all the Bedouin Muslim jihadists that came from all the Middle East basically slaughtered them, and they managed to survive that, so that became one of their symbols. See, there's more Druze showing that. This is insane, guys. This is a show of solidarity. They call it Har HaBashan, the Bashan mountain, which is the name from the Bible, from the times where Israel, the Jews, ruled over this land, and it was called Har HaBashan, Melech HaBashan, king of the Bashan. There's a lot of references in the Bible for that. So the Druze are starting to reclaim that name again, calling it now not Syria anymore, but the land of the Bashan. And in many ways also showing their solidarity with Israel, and also I would say feeling more comfortable to finally start speaking out and saying we don't belong to these maniacs. We're not part of these jihadists. We're not part of this Muslim empire that they're trying to build. We're not Muslims. They forced us to convert. They're trying to kill us for so long, and now we finally, have broken our chains from them, and we're trying to set ourselves free. But if Israel would have not stepped in, they would have annihilated all of us. And still, if Israel will not protect them, they will massacre them in numbers. Be aware of what's cooking in southern Syria. The Syrian people are more radical than the Gazans themselves. People don't like to admit it because for a very long time they've been oppressed by the Assad regime. So we like to think like, oh no, there's so many of them are so poor. But look what they're doing to the Christians. Look what they're doing to the Alawites. Even now, they're still doing it to the Alawites and the Christians. Actually, not long ago, they went to Alawite neighborhoods, started massacring, slaughtering, and humiliating them, and Alawites were shown making pictures of signs in Hebrew written saying, Israel save us. How come all the minorities in the Middle East keep asking Israel to save them from Islam, who is oppressing them again and again? Meanwhile, in Syria, there was a never heard of, I'm telling you, as a Druze from Israel, I've never thought in my life that I will see a whole parade of Syrian citizens, Druze, walking in their streets, driving their cars with Israeli flags and Druze flag, with pictures of Bibi Netanyahu and Hikmat al-Hijri, the religious sheikh and leader of the Druze resistance in the Druze mountain, going around and saying, take us with you, make us part of you, save us, give us, free us from the burden of Islamic oppression, of Syria, of jihad, of Sharia law. Something is cooking. I'm telling you, something very big is cooking, and these things are not coming just out of nowhere. As someone who has been living and breathing politics right now, as someone who was an officer in the IDF, in the Special Forces, who walked the whole land of Israel, who was born and raised in Israel, and have relatives in Lebanon, and in Syria, and in the entire Middle East, I'm telling you guys, something big is cooking. Just last week, we had the Israeli ambassador to the UN going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with the Syrian ambassador, where they started clashing. Accusation. The Syrian ambassador came and said, give us back the Golan Heights. I'm just summarizing for you, give us back the Golan Heights. It's not yours, it's ours. And then Israel said, no, it's not going to happen. We're not going to let you take it because you guys are a bunch of terrorists. And he said, no, well, all of our allies are okay with us. And then Israel said, we will not let militias come close to the border with Israel. This is one of the lessons learned of October 7 that Israel learned. So many people have been asking, how did you not see the warning written on the wall on October 7? Everybody knew what they were planning, what they were cooking. And if no one will wake up now, people will say the same thing. Why did you not see the even bigger warning written on the wall coming from the Syrian border? I'll tell you a very good example that helps you understand why is the Syrian border much more dangerous and crucial strategically to Israel than the Gaza border. You see, in Gaza, we know there's Hamas. We know there's radicalization of entire communities there that support terrorism and want to come and kill Israel. They don't choose life, they choose death, and they want to kill as many Jews and Christians with them. Not all. I know there's a lot of, well, I don't know if a lot, but there is good people in there that deserve a better life, but the majority there supported October 7 and supported the killing of the Jews and still do it until today. Don't believe me? Just go and see. There's a lot of numbers and statistics around the internet about this. Israel could still engulf Gaza. Israel can still control that the radicalization in Gaza doesn't go out. Israel can try to a certain degree control the weapons that enter to Gaza and the equipment and etc. etc. And even though they were able to pull October 7 on us with such devastating outcome. With the border with Syria, not only that Israel doesn't control that border, there's nothing behind it that stops it except from the Druze community and maybe a few Christian communities, but they are heavily outnumbered, heavily outgunned, and they can't do almost anything to stop the onslaught that is coming towards Israel from that direction. As well, there's a lot of pro-Palestine militias that are starting to pop up and grow over there. And now that they saw themselves being defeated in Gaza and Palestine, they've never abandoned the dream of destroying Israel, and they're trying to raise it from there. And once you do it there, you have a clear connection to basically jihadistan. Everywhere in the Middle East, Syria is a huge place. They can come and reach and then come together and support and bring as many forces as they can to come and threaten the stability of Israel, the entire Middle East. And oh boy, whoever, we all know that the minorities are the first ones to suffer. So anything in that way, Christians, Druze, Yazidis, Alawite, it doesn't matter. Every minority there is going to suffer heavily because, let's be honest, once you fill your neighborhood with a bunch of jihadists and murderous, very evil humans, obviously they're not going to do good to the local communities, to science, agriculture, and I don't know what. It's just going to destroy another region of the Middle East. And here is something even more crazy. Now, I want you to hear this. Terror group from all the Middle East are building a new Syria base with backing from the regime of Syria. It gets even wilder. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad is building its military presence in Syria with the regime full knowledge and support. According to Israel media reports, the group's armed wing has significantly expanded operations in the refugee camps near Damascus in recent weeks. And they went down to the area of Daraa, which is the Bedouin area that is right close to Israel. It's separating between Israel and the Druze, by the way. A huge piece of land that is run by very radical jihadists. Syria have become an attractive base for the PIJ, specifically because the United States recently implemented an informal ban on Israeli airstrike against Syrian targets. This policy shifts have effectively created a safer operation environment for military groups in Syria. Syria's government under Ahmed al-Shara has appointed a special envoy whose sole responsibility is facilitating communications between the PIJ leaderships and the Syrian authorities. This shows active coordination, not just passive tolerance of the group's presence in the land of Syria. The PIJ's Syria expansion is part of the broader regional coordination. Hamas is simultaneously strengthening ties with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israeli officials warn terror groups are building capabilities on multiple fronts to encircle Israel. It won't happen today, it won't happen tomorrow, but will happen a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. One thing is for sure, people forget very quickly. 9/11 happens, we will never forget, never let that again. A few years later, and New York City elects a jihadist Muslim Brotherhood mayor, basically. Let's just call it what it is. Kippur War, 6-Day War, all these wars that happen in Israel, the Holocaust, Israel, never again, never again. Calm down, we disengage from Gaza, boom, October 7 comes on us, and everybody's like, wow, oh my God, how did we let that happen? So Israel now, Israel 2.0, Israel post October 7 have said that they will not let that happen again, and part of that is not to let these things start to happening. Now, if you ask me, I have a very, very friendly And a very good advice of how to make that happen. Bring the Druze from Syria into Israel, or at least strengthen them as much as possible. They are true allies for the state of Israel. Strengthen them so they can protect themselves, because they right now serve as a buffer zone between many of these jihadists and Israel. They're basically the only ethnical group right now in Syria that did not bend the knee to Sharia and is still trying to fight, except from the Kurds. The Kurds are there and they're doing that very strong. But the Kurds are way up in the north, and they've been backed for a very long time by the US and other governments. They basically have a stronger army than the entire Syria right now. But if you go down to the south, there's a lot of radical jihadists, there's a lot of Hamas, a lot of Hezbollah, there's a lot of other ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and then there's the Druze, Christians, Alawites, and Israel. And in that region right now, Israel is the only one that can defend himself. All these others are struggling heavily and soon possibly will be annihilated. And the only one that has rescued them is Israel. And I think that Israel should strengthen the ties with these allies and make them strong and help her secure that border and also clean that area from all these radical jihadists. Obviously, the Syrian government is not about to do that, so Israel should take matters to her own hands and not wait. And I know right now there's quite a lot of fuzz between the American administration that seems to be very concerned into appeasing Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Turkey and other players that are clearly not sharing the same values, I would say, like America, and they have different agendas for the Middle East. Yes, every country in the Middle East have its own agenda. Israel have its own agenda, America, everybody have. But there is certain countries and cultures and religions that their agenda and their ideology and theology are much closer to one another. And that is clearly the Christians and the Jews are the closest one. And I would even say the Druze and other minor communities here are much more closer to the Christians and the Jews. However, usually they're just too afraid to say so, because you see what happened when they start speaking up, they start getting killed and massacred by the radical Islamist regimes that are ruling over the Middle East. Anyway, guys, I was trying to give you a brief kind of update of what's happening. Something big is coming, and you might start hearing about it in the next few weeks. That is my gut feeling, and so far, I haven't been wrong about it. And yeah, let's see what's happening. Stay safe, and see you next time.